Can anyone catch them, do you think?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, unbelievable. We didn't expect that.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Away Gooners podcast.
Hi.
So this is the Crystal Palace game review, and I'm literally trying to come up with an idea of having a happier introduction or some kind of a positive introduction, but really finding it hard to do that with that game in mind. So
Unbeaten in the last 5 games. That's a positive note to start with.
But yeah, welcome Bob, welcome Arun, and welcome back GG14.
Hi guys.
Hi, thanks.
Hello.
So let me since you started, Bob, I'll start with you, right?
Why me?
Thank you. I was actually I was thinking that you were going to start with me, and I was like dreading it. Thanks a lot for that starting. Yes, go on. Let's start with Bob.
Bob walked into the trap. So Bob,
Yes, he did.
So are you seeing it actually as positive that we are unbeaten in the last 5 games after this game? Are you seeing it that way? Is that your reaction to the game?
No, absolutely not. It definitely we spared our blushes by getting a point there. Against Brighton, we were talking that we've been really lucky that we didn't go on to lose the game. I had a similar feeling. And it almost happened towards the end of the injury time, until, like I said, scored. It was a game that we could have easily lost and would have lost. It was just a fluke. The performance was terrible, as we all know. It was just a mere luck that we were able to convert the chance that we had and then, come out with a 1-point draw. 1 point shouldn't mask all the things which went wrong. That's what I would say in a nutshell. Probably I'll elaborate a bit more in terms of all the areas which we went wrong. But yeah, I think performance comparing to the Brighton game wasn't any positive. In fact, it was just still 2 steps back from the Brighton game.
Absolutely, we'll be discussing about like the game in detail a little bit, but before that, GG14. So the question is, right, like even though if we say this as 1 point, and we know that every point in the table is very, very important. We could say whatever about like a point, we could scoff however we get it, but it is still important when you consider it in a big picture, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a very encouraging outcome because we have a home game at the Emirates, and for the first time, our tactics of always getting an early goal so that we can actually play to our style actually happened for us. And with all the support at the Emirates Stadium, we still managed to blow it. And it looked as if the team did not have any cohesion, like they had been called from like different clubs to come and play a national team game or something, because the whole thing was just not coming together. Everything was just different. Like it looked like we had a defense and an attack, and everybody was just, I don't know, going about their, I really don't know what was going on, but it was a very poor performance, if you ask me, because and it was 3 points for the win. It was 3 points that we actually held in our hands, and we allowed it to slip away and to actually get 0. So luckily for a goal at the end, we managed to grab just 1 out of that 3. And for a club like Arsenal that is going into, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, but at home to win a match, you don't expect to come out with just 1 point and be excited. If we keep having this excitement over 1 point, then we'll just have a very poor season.
Exactly. That's the point that I was trying to make too, right? Like Arun, the question is, right, we should be happy with the last minute equalizer in general, but this has been happening a lot recently, or we are being told that we have to be happy with the 1 point every time this happens. and with Arteta, this has been happening far too often for us to ignore that. We cannot go in and say, just compartmentalize this game. We have to see it as a whole, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, it's not one or two games, off games, that decide whether the process is working or not. It is a sequence of events. When we were so happy after winning those 3 games against Burnley, Norwich, and Tottenham, we thought like the process was back on track. But I do not right now know, with after the Brighton game and after the Palace game, getting outclassed by managers who've had lesser resources and lesser time to actually implement what they want to implement at clubs like Brighton and Palace, makes me think, is there really like I'm not doubting like whether the manager has credentials or not, but is he like actually implementing something at all? Like that's what I'm thinking. Like, what if there is something getting implemented, we should be seeing results. Like, it's like I said, it's not one result, but it's a sequence of events. It's a sequence of results. Consistency is what really shows you whether you're making progress or not. If you're winning 3 games and then like you're not turning up for the next 2 games, especially at home, when you're having like the sort of performance that we did with the full crowd support after getting the lead, it really, like, when you get the lead, you're expected to play well at home. You're expected to dominate. And then,
Arun, sorry, just to cut you off there, a small counter argument. A manager can just, prepare the tactics and all those sort of things with the players that you have, but on the pitch, it's just the players
this is an age-old argument, bro. We can keep blaming the players all we want. Yes,
no, I'm not. I'm just saying, for an argument's sake, yeah, you can blame as much as a manager, but at the end of the day, it's just the players who are stepping out of the line.
True,
and then,
true. No, I totally agree. The players did have an off game, but what did the manager do to arrest?
No, but even that, right? Even that question. If the players are gonna have a off game, how many off games do players have? Last game, Brighton, we said players had an off game. The game before all this, we had before all this Norwich and everything.
And how is it that Brentford, half the team is not performing?
Yeah.
Like the thing that bothers me is whenever our players go on an international break, we talk about all this experience, like these guys being the captains of their respective teams, there being leadership groups and all that. But the ones who were miserable yesterday were the ones who are supposed to be part of this leadership group. Katie was horrible. We call him the captain all the time. Odegaard was terrible. We take pride in saying that he's the captain of the golden generation of the Norwegian team. What are these guys doing? Partey, after he scored like 2 goals, 3 goals, and we were all happy. And then he comes back in and gives a stinker. Like, what's going on? How can so many people fail on the same day? And how can the manager not arrest it?
Vijay, well, I thought there would be time for the tactics in the lineup. That's why I actually haven't said anything. But if we're going into it.
Yes, I am going to ask you for the question, right? Like, especially about the lineup. We'll start with the lineup and then we'll go into the tactics a little bit. The lineup, when the team news came out, right? It looked like it's a very attacking lineup, especially like with no double pivot. When he has put both Odegaard and Saka in, and then he brought in Pepe in. So the only problem I had is moving Saka from right to left. Right, Saka is very, very good. For me, moving him to the left didn't make sense even at the start. So
because Pepe can't play on the left, isn't it?
Then let him not play. Then let him not play.
Right. So GG14. So I'll ask you this, right? Like, what do you think? Hindsight is a good thing. Hindsight is a good thing. Now we could say this we could have done, this we could have done. We could have had a double pivot on everything, right? But when the team news came out, what was your thought?
Well, are we going into the tactics or you're just talking about the lineup?
I mean, we could go into the tactics, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
All right. So I've had a problem with a special type of tactics about Arteta for a very long time, and I always tweet about it in my tweets. I actually have a picture of it, so after the podcast, I'll just send it to you so that you can actually see what I'm saying. Because if I try to share my screen, it's going to take some time.
Yep, sure.
But The thing is, the lineup looked like a very positive one because we didn't go there as if we were going to sit back and absorb the pressure. We actually looked like we were going to play all out attacking. But it was very, very appalling to see that Odegaard rather had to tuck in into Tierney's position for Tierney to move up front. And that is exactly what I don't get. Every time we play Xhaka and Tierney, Tierney is the one who goes up and Xhaka has to cover for him. And every time he leaves Partey alone in that sixth row, no matter the other players that are playing. So every time Tierney is up front, and we trust Tierney for his defense, his quickness, his responsiveness, and his reaction. So he has that defensive instincts to be able to detect when there's danger coming. You're always pushing Tierney up front, and he kind of refuses to come back. And then it just isolates the defenders every time because Gabi always has to come out. Ben White always has to come and cover for Gabi, and then Tommy has to come. So the right side is always just whoever plays there. So if you are playing a Pepe on the right side, it looks like Pepe is isolated because Tomiyasu does not come in to overlap for him, and then Partey cannot come and support because he has to stay. It's a whole lot of problems. I find it very difficult to see that Saka's best position of right wing has been sacrificed because he wanted to play Pepe. But in the first 10 minutes, it worked because it was as a result of Pepe's shots that led to the Oba goal. So if it's worked, and then after 10 to 20 minutes, what is just preventing them from just switching for Pepe to come to the left side? Yesterday, Smith Rowe had a very poor game because he's kind of being played out of position. He loves to link up with whoever plays as a striker, and Odegaard now is playing more like a left back for Tierney to move up front. Saka, oh my God, there's so many problems. Saka is a kind of player who doesn't like to go into the box to go and look for a goal scoring opportunity, but Smith Rowe rather do that. So Smith Rowe is actually much more prepared for the left side. Unlike Saka, who will stay with Tierney both on the wing and try and create something. But now you have Tierney so close to him, and it makes it difficult for him to progress. So you put Saka on the right, Tomiyasu stays back. Saka actually goes back into Tomiyasu, receive the ball, turn, and run. So Pepe, who would actually need a player like Tierney so close to him to do some exchanges and some skills so that he can move on, is rather being placed on the right where he has no support.
Yeah.
And now Odegaard, who is a natural number 10, is playing in a left back row. And it's ridiculous because I've kept saying it, I keep saying it, that if you want to play Smith Rowe and Odegaard in a team, you have to get that player in the middle who is always ready to face them and receive the ball. And we have just two players like that. They are Martinelli and Lacazette. Lacazette is so strong enough to always hold the ball for whoever is playing on the wing to just run in behind. So if you see Laka play, Pepe goes in behind him, you see Saka going in behind him, creating the spaces, because he will just move out and stop the ball, and whoever can go, just go behind the defense. But if you play Oba, you can clearly see that he's always falling over, because as soon as he receives the ball, he's falling on whoever is behind him. And it doesn't work. If you see the picture I have here right now, Oba always wants to drift out to the right side. So Oba goes out, and then Odegaard has to go and press the middle, leaves the space behind. Smith Rowe doesn't come to cover because he's kind of trying to create that linking. Oh my God. This is their tactics is just so poor. You play to the team's strengths, not force a tactic on them. If Tierney is not being able to play up front, you bring in Lokonga. You make Tierney stay back in the defense left back and allow Lokonga to link up with Partey. But you see, there's so much space between Lokonga and Partey because Lokonga has to cover for Tierney and Tierney has to move up. And yesterday, I was very disappointed with Kieran. A lot of fans will actually disagree with me, but almost all the balls that he got, he played it back into defense, and it didn't allow us a lot of progress from there.
So, Bob, he made a really good point, right? Like GG14 right now made a really good point, especially about Tierney, right? The whole left-sided bias, whatever the idea of the left-sided bias that Arteta is doing, trying to push Tierney on and everything, that shouldn't be the only way we play. I understand if we had Xhaka in, who is a natural, ball player, who is a natural forward passer from behind the back. For Xhaka, for himself, he likes the game to be in front of him. That makes sense when you put him on that like left back kind of situation. That makes sense. But when Xhaka is not playing, that tactic should be flexible, right?
So we can all safely say that we don't, or Arteta doesn't have a plan B to deal with that sort of a situation. The reason as to why we struggled against Brighton and as well as with Crystal Palace is the fact that our team's attack is completely it's been tactically set up wrong, as like what GG14 stressed upon, without Xhaka not being there in the team. Without him, nobody really is very clear in terms of what their position is. And Lokonga is often got caught out of position because he doesn't really know what he needs to do when Tierney bombards forward. And he actually, when he tries to backtrack him, it leaves a space behind. Partey is just being able to do some of the things that he could. I mean, he was as well guilty of letting one of those goals in. But to be very fair, it's just what the manager asked Lokonga to do in terms if your left back actually goes forward, and whatever that's been done there is not right.
I get it, right? Like, so that is the question, right? The question is not just about the tactics and lack of plan B. The question is, does our manager know what our players' strengths are, right? Because like it's very clear that Auba cannot play that back to the goal striker position, but he is being asked to play that role. And our wingers are supposed to be running past, like our wingers are cut-in wingers. Both of our wingers are. Saka is a cut-in type of, and Pepe is a cut-in type of. We know that as fans, but they are not asked to do that role. One of them has to get the chalk up the boot, kind of touching the line kind of a player, asked to do that role, and the other one is asked to cut in. And then you are asking Odegaard to play in as a left back in a 4-3-3 formation, where we were expecting that the Partey is going to be the deepest midfielder, but at points we are seeing Odegaard being the deepest midfielder. So that's the question, right?
Unfortunately, if I knew the answer, I would have been sitting in the dugout there. But the thing is, I thought after the Brighton game, this was an obvious sort of a gap in our team, right? I mean, we were unsure in terms of how each of them should set a position. I mean, should we go in for an attack or in for a defensive position? I thought after the Brighton game, Arteta had all the international break to think about and then come up with some sort of a solution, but he didn't. And Vieira, I felt that Vieira sort of knew that, and then he sort of capitalized on that thing, which is why the 2 goals which they scored were as a result of midfielders doing mistakes. They forced them to do pretty much mistakes, and then they capitalized on that to score. It was sort of freakish, but I think they had a very clear plan in terms of how to attack. And if Arteta doesn't arrest this, it's going to come back to bite us again this Friday when we play against Villa.
So Arun, right? Leave the left-sided bias. I mean, again, GG14, he made the point of that Tomiyasu tucking in is not helping Pepe on the right, and Saka could do it, who comes in deep, collects the ball, run. So it's like 2 different players, 2 different styles, and we want to play one style, and Pepe is not suited for it. So is this the end of Pepe, or should we look at it like, no, let's hold on to Pepe because he can do something, and we would have to think about it because the manager seems to be running out of ideas?
You know how big of a fan of Pepe I am. I've always been
exactly. That's why I asked the question to you.
Yeah, but I'm right now with every game that I see, with every Pepe's performance that I see in this system, in what the team is trying to do. The more and more I see him play, the more and more I'm feeling that he's not suited to this system anymore. If at all anything, he's the one who's actually preventing the attacks from building. So he's sort of being the attack stopper. And it seems like our best players are being played out of position to accommodate him just for the simple fact that he brings in a goal threat. We do not, it shows goes to show how bad our other remaining goal threats are, that we are actually trying to fit a like round peg in a square hole, even though his other qualities are actually hampering the overall playing of the team. So that it doesn't make any sense for me. Your best player, like we've been talking about, your best player is Saka. He plays best on the right, and you're trying to push him out wide to the left in a game where Xhaka is not playing, and your entire left side is completely messed up. Just for what? Just to accommodate Pepe, so he can like try to take 2 shots on goal in an entire game where he loses possession like 20 times. What is like the sum? What is the sum of all these parts? Where is it coming up to? The sum of all these parts is not ending up in what we really wanted to end up in, which is like your goals, your style of play. It is not helping with anything at all. For me, I do not see Pepe as being a part of this team. The same way we feel now, we say that yeah, Xhaka is required, and we're completely clueless without Gran and Xhaka. But if Xhaka does play and we do see the style of play, we'll realize that for the team to get to the next level, Xhaka is not the right person. Like Xhaka is required for the team to function right now. But for us to evolve and become the team that we want to become, Xhaka is not the right person. I think with Pepe, we've already reached that point.
No,
We've
but
reached,
so the question is, right? Like, I mean, I get it. Like the manager put players here and there, right? Like, but we know that players could switch in game.
yeah.
Players could switch positions in game. We have seen that Saka moving to the right, Saka moving to the left, Saka being in the middle, exchanging positions with ESR. This has happened in our teams.
True.
But of late, that is what is missing. Like no one is moving, no one is trying to change the game on the pitch. Is
We
this
are,
big? Yeah.
sorry, Kotiya, with every game that we play, the rigidity increases.
Yes, exactly.
I do not
How
know.
often
Like,
have you guys seen Pepe moving on to the left?
it does happen, but it has not been happening in a long time. I have seen him move. I have seen him switch flanks. I have seen him like take the play completely, move to the other side and switch flanks. But what is going on right now is that I think we are trying to get too disciplined. Discipline is very important, but there has to be some sort of freedom for the players to be able to express themselves. Whoever makes the mistakes, it just seems like we are trying to get forward, but then it ultimately ends up being like another pass which goes to the player behind you rather than it being a progressive pass. The rigidity is like preventing people from really doing what they have to do just for the sake of not conceding a goal. And we did end up conceding 2 goals. So I really don't understand like what it all is leading to. Like that's what I'm not. What am I supposed to be looking for?
Yeah. So GG14, the question is, right, like, I mean, I wanted that continuation of what I was asking. Like are players being scared not to express themselves? Like when Martinelli came in, right, there was this moment where he was isolated in the corner, in the left-hand corner, and no one came in to help him out, and the crowd was shouting for someone to come and help him out. He had the ball, he had 3 players around him, and he was still playing the ball, trying to play, but no one was near him. Is this because of is this, I mean, these are not players who don't care. Like Tierney cares. Like I can pick out the players on the pitch who cares about the club, or cares about their career at least, right? So are they afraid to do something outside of what Arteta is putting up as a plan?
All right, probably yesterday, as soon as I saw our performance after the first goal, I realized that, I'm actually putting the whole draw on Arteta. So whatever comes out of it, I'll blame the manager. Because first of all, for a long time now, Arsenal Football Club's off-ball movements have been the poorest I've seen in the whole league. When somebody is holding the ball, the movements from the other players, it's like the poorest. But under Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger, you could actually see movements from players trying to get into places where places that look very dangerous for the opponent. But right now, if somebody tucks into a house space, the one who is bringing the ball is afraid to pass the ball to him because he knows that if that player loses the ball, we'll be in trouble. But we have seen a national team that have played Giroud, Podolski, Walcott, Cazorla, Wilshere, and Arteta all in one game, with Cazorla going out to the right-hand side to pick out balls for Podolski to come into the middle for Wilshere. So it's been national culture for us to just be shifting it around. But if you see Smith Rowe, who is stuck on the right flank, Odegaard, who is stuck on the left flank, Tierney, who is stuck up front, who doesn't want to come back. You see Gabriel with the ball from defense, just opening his arms. Who is coming for it? Who is ready to receive it? Who is setting himself up to 10 for it? Who is moving? And we start to just playing Burnley football, just lifting the ball aloof every time we get a chance, because nobody is clearly making any run to receive it. And when the ball is lifted, our two players who will be ready to flick the ball on in Martinelli and Lacazette will be on the bench. And we lift the ball up. Oba will be there. He won't get onto it. Crystal Palace or Brighton gets the ball and they just charge back at us. So off-ball movement is something that's actually practiced on training. The players get used to that type of movement. You get the ball, you see your player make a run, somebody comes close, because Pepe and Martinelli are two players that play extremely well when Odegaard is playing with freedom, because you could see from the previous Crystal Palace game that Odegaard would always love to bring Pepe into the game, because he loves to tuck in that right shoulder just behind Pepe to always feed him the ball in front of Pepe, who just comes in to shoot. But if you don't play that position for Odegaard, including Pepe on the right side, then you put Pepe on the left. Because last season, we saw Pepe on the left being more direct, going around players with his left foot instead of coming back in to make a shot. And you see Martinelli going back behind the post, going back behind the players to receive the balls and those intelligent long passes from Odegaard around into the box to create a goal scoring opportunity. So the mentality looks good, because everybody now wants to play safe passes, and you don't progress with a lot of attack if you play safe passes. Because even Ramsdale is taking risks of playing football through the defense, playing through the lines, and we see our attacking players who have been brought in who are basically just playing the safe passes back into defense.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's an excellent point what you made. Let's start talking about the goals and the moments in the game, right? Arun, the first goal, not just the first goal, the first 20 minutes of the game, I have started calling it
When
as
we
the
actually
Arsenal,
played, yeah.
Yeah, I have started calling that as the Arsenal 20 minutes, because we are playing 20 minutes good in every game. Like, that is our limit. We play good 20 minutes in like Brighton game. We play good 20 minutes in, even against Spurs. We played 20 minutes good. They played the rest of the game shit. Right? So the first goal is generally, I mean, there was a lot of positivity in the movement. There was a lot of positivity of the ball being carried about. And then Pepe had the shot, which was a great shot. I mean, whatever we talk about Pepe in general, his shooting, his positioning of taking a shot is absolutely brilliant. Right?
Like I said, the goal threat that he brings in, that's the reason.
Yes, and he takes a great shot, which was pushed into Auba, and Auba makes an absolute banger of a run, puts it into the net, which should have kicked us off. Right? So talk me through about the first 20 minutes. Why it worked for the first 20 minutes, but not for the next part of the game.
I agree. Yeah, we played only for the first 20 minutes, but the more I see it, the more it makes me think that it was probably Aubameyang's pressing and whatever he was doing that made it seem like everyone was playing well. You know, like if you really think about it, he was the one who was pressing throughout the game. He was the one who was trying to make something happen throughout the game. Right at the beginning, there were like a few people who were supporting him. I remember like Odegaard was pressing, ESR was trying to press, but the one who sustained it throughout the game was only Aubameyang. So that's your answer. Like, you know, after that 15-minute period when we got that goal, we should have taken the initiative. It is a home game. We should have taken the initiative. This is where like I felt that Vieira displayed like a maturity that I wasn't expecting him to do in this sort of a game so early into his career. He didn't stop, he didn't defend, he didn't hold back. He went on the attack, which meant that we were not able to really play our game. But not just that, we did not have, like we keep saying, a plan B. We do not have Xhaka. When they are attacking, we have to like get back and defend. Where at that point, a 4-2-3 went. I don't think we were ready for this. Like I know you're talking about the intensity dropping off, but that was also probably due to a shock that they were not expecting the opposition to really play the way they did. Any team that goes 15 minutes 1-0 up at home with all the support that they have from the crowd would naturally think that the opposition is going to get intimidated and bit back down. So at that point, your job, you are going to think that, okay, we are going to have a field day. It's going to be fun. We are going to pass the ball around. The first 15 minutes were an indication of that. The movement was fluid. The player movement was fluid. The ball was progressing forward. We were not clueless at any point, like thinking whether the ball has to be passed back or forward. It seemed to work like clockwork. After the goal, those guys started attacking. I don't think we were ready for that. Like, it was supposed to be like a smoother game than that. Once they start attacking, our entire plan fell apart. I don't think Odegaard was like, like we spoke about it right at the beginning, but I don't think he was ready to face this sort of a game, being a part of a double pivot, like sort of that he was most parts of the game when he was like completely out of position. So the sustenance, the 15-minute sustenance could possibly be not working. Like, the 15-minute sustenance that we have, it could possibly be due to like so many factors. But in this game, I would say it was possibly due to like how Palace played rather than us playing or not playing.
Sorry, Arun, I might just want to as well add that, after the first 20-minute mark, Smith Rowe found himself in very good position where he could have passed the ball to Pepe. Things could have been different, I mean, I'm not saying Pepe would have converted them all, but his decision making was very poor, I felt. This is not the first time that we felt that. We saw that moment as well in the Brighton game when he had a chance to pass to Saka. So I mean, this something which is keeping on repeating, and which is quite annoying as well, because to be very fair, we could have put one more goal, and that would have put Palace on the back seat, and it would have been totally a different result.
See Bob, for me that argument is not valid, because the thing is, we are clutching at straws. Tell me a moment after that where we actually did something good, right? Because if you look at big teams,
okay, I'll say TNE's post. It was a blasting shot. I mean, if not for the speed, Lacazette would have probably even headed that off in. Yes, it was too quick for Lacazette to react. That's
what I'm saying. Every game we are getting 2 or 3 moments like this, right? And if we are thinking,
that's what defines a football game, isn't it?
But again, it happens to every team, Bob. That's the same question that I'm having. Like when we are talking about Xhaka missing out, that's the same problem I'm having. They are missing out on
Vijay,
Zaha.
I'll actually have to disagree with you on that one, because I've actually been tweeting about it a lot. Nowadays, Smith Rowe is becoming a very selfish player, and it's very embarrassing to watch. Smith Rowe was a player that would always love to give the assist instead of a goal. But now all of a sudden, he would rather go himself. Because this is not the first time. It's been happening. And that was one problem that we had with Joe Willock before he was sold. He would love to rather be the one to score a goal instead of laying it off for someone else to play. And we are seeing it in ML too. If you check my Twitter handle, you can actually see instances that have actually broken down where Smith Rowe could have just gone wider, passed the ball, linked up with someone else for a simple tap-in, but he would rather try to shoot. Because in a place where it's crowded for you and it's opening up for somebody else, it is better to pass it for them to miss it than for you to just take it on yourself. Because you see that Brighton chance that he got. Which player wouldn't have passed that ball? He was just moving out wide, making it simpler for the keeper to just hold the ball, and still decided to take on the shots. I get that Mikel is trying to encourage him to take on more shots, get into more goal scoring opportunities, and increase his numbers. But what is becoming of Emil so far is something that's becoming very embarrassing. Because Saka would pass the ball to you. So what is preventing you from passing the ball to him?
I get what you're saying, right? And in moments, yes. And again, we are looking at 20-year-olds. Okay, Saka is unusually gifted for how young he is. Not all 20-year-olds make the decisions right. Even when Robin van Persie was a 20-year-old, he didn't make the right decisions. Even when there are very few players who do the right decisions at that age.
But that shouldn't justify the fact that he's making those mistakes. I think we should actually start talking about it so that they find a way around it, because it's costing us. I understand that wasn't the only turning around points that we had in the game, but that could have been a turning around point.
Exactly. That's my point.
If you pass the ball and Pepe misses it, fine. We all know that Pepe missed it. But somebody who has played one that has led to a goal, you definitely know that Pepe will try to receive the ball on his left leg and shoot. Because it was just sad to see. I was very gutted yesterday night when I saw him trying to take that shot on. But then, well, it didn't happen. And I don't think he's the one to be blamed for what happened. But that particular instance, I think he should have done better.
Yeah, he should have done better. But for me, Bob, the question is, right, the simple question is, we keep saying all these things, but even bigger teams like Timo Werner misses so many shots. Timo Werner misses so much, but still Chelsea's not dropping points. Like Salah misses so much. Mane misses so much. Mane shoots in fuck ton of shots, but it gets in 1 or 2, right? I mean, he gets a lot more goals too, but again, there are bigger players who misses shots. And also about Xhaka missing out, right? We shouldn't be worried about it so much. Like if you consider Crystal Palace, they were missing out Zaha when Albion came out, like when Brighton came to us, or we went to Brighton. They were missing out their best player, who was Bissouma. Everyone misses out on players. We shouldn't be saying these are the reasons where things could have changed. Those shouldn't be the only reasons.
I mean, we could reason out to say Xhaka had been the fulcrum of all the attack and defense and all those sort of things. But in the end, I think this team hasn't been. I mean, we've discussed in length before. So I mean, tactically, this team is not adept to multiple different situations, and I don't think they are autonomous to know what they need to be doing at the end of each of it. I mean, everyone is struggling with poor decisioning and things, which is costing us a lot of points as such. We could go into length in terms of how bank average many of these players are, and then not putting up the performance. I mean, which is least expected out of them. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably it's more of the manager's fault that he's not tactically setting them right to sort of have them a different dimension. If in case a plan A go wrong, choose to do something different and force the opposition to make some mistakes and all those sort of things. When Partey tried a couple of long ranges yesterday, I sort of got the thinking that it could have been coming in from the fact that Crystal Palace has been, the one who has conceded the most goals out of the box. So I probably thought that Partey had his chance. I mean, in fact, in all those earlier free kicks that he has taken since the start of the season, these two looked pretty decent. They didn't really hit the target. That was another thing, but at least it was decent enough from all those previous attempts that Partey had done. So they had put in some thinking, but it was still not enough, as you said. I mean, many of the teams, even with lower budgets and all those sort of things, they were able to create, much more a difference. Even before the start of the games, I was actually looking into some of the Crystal Palace fans and then their YouTube videos and all those sort of things talking about the Arsenal game. They were all very confident to the fact that Vieira will go there and then press for a win, and in many ways that they succeeded. It was just, if not for, like I said, they would have been really rejoicing how good their manager has been so far. If Vieira had come, from in a different league, even after being sacked from a team in League One and coming back, and almost many of the players were released at the end of last season for Palace, and having to come up with a young team and then still almost stamp their authority on the game is really commendable, and just goes on to say that Arteta has got a long way to go and he needs to fix it really fast if he has to improve the team in terms of every personnel and their positions and all those sort of things.
I mean, if we are starting on the Vieira, Arteta and managerial discussion, that's a very long one that we would have to have. But before that,
Vieira hasn't still proved anything anywhere.
No, I'm not questioning that. But if we are
and Arteta has won 2 trophies.
That's a very meek defense, Arun. That's no longer valid anymore.
But no, the thing is, like when we were doing the preview episode, you guys were asking me for danger man. I said all of Arsenal team is going to be the danger man for us. And then that happened. That's exactly what happened. We are going to be our own danger man.
You jinxed it. But again, the actual talking about the danger man, right? Like I actually had to talk about the foul on Saka. Right? There is no question that we could get away from discussing that, especially if we are talking about goals and everything. Not just on the foul on Saka, but in general, the refereeing was pretty bad in the game, at least to me. Or I mean, we are all Arsenal fans, so we are all gonna agree on that anyways. So
even a neutral fan would agree with us, Vijay. So I don't think it's a stonewall red card. I mean, I wouldn't say it was malicious. It was obviously not malicious, but it's most certainly a red card.
So actually, we had a technical glitch. GG14 dropped out of the discussion. I mean, you guys have to watch his Twitter tweeting and everything, because he does do a lot of work on the game and strategy and stuff. So shout out to Gravity Gunner 14, the Twitter handle and the YouTube page in general. But Bob, you were making a point about the whole the foul on Saka. Right, and I was saying that yes, it is a foul. I mean, they gave a yellow card, which is absolutely and Righty was
ridiculous.
Going on, and Righty was going on about like how this is absolutely ridiculous. You cannot have this kind of situation happen again and again and again and again, right? He was not playing the ball at all.
It changed the course of the game, I felt. I mean, Palace were able to get back into the game because of the fact that they didn't really have a player sent off by that point in time. The game was 1-0 when that happened, and it should have been 10 men playing at that point in time. I mean, we've seen so many instances where David Luiz and Granit Xhaka get red carded for even the pettiest of offenses, and then it just shows that it's a terrible bias. And Mike Dean he's a big fat. I don't really want to swear, but unfortunately, I never liked him. He shows his sort of his ego stands above everyone in every game that he plays, and he would want to have his say, which is terrible 90% of the times. And it just felt that he had a very poor game, just like every other game that he does. I can't really justify what had happened. It definitely did change the course of the game. I'm not undermining that. I mean, we were playing good if not for the red card. I mean, possible potential red card, but it did definitely would have helped us in the right way, and we probably would have put more pressure on Palace, I felt.
Arun, there was a tweet going on about like if MacArthur would have been named McShaka, he would have been given a red card, right? Not just that red card. Even after that, he was on yellow, and he tucked on ESR, and that was a yellow offense all day long. That would have been a second red. So in general, we know that Arsenal are called babies by a lot of opponents. Like Arsenal players are called soft, they are called babies by a lot of opponents. But these kind of refereeing kind of encourages that, right? Like kind of encourages these bullies. Like why Troy Deeney makes fun of it? Because he was given the liberty that he could push our players around and get away with it. Neil Maupay could potentially injure our player. Like yesterday, when Xhaka's injury. I mean, I'm still not sure how much of this is going to affect Saka.
To answer that question, like I would hope that it doesn't affect him to a great bit, because he's like a professional footballer. You're playing at like probably the highest level in Europe, which is the Premier League, and I would hope that it doesn't, like, affect him, because he knows that this is going to happen week in, week out. So I would hope that it doesn't affect him. The refereeing standard in the overall game was terrible. Like I think we can all agree on that. It is not just as an Arsenal fan that I feel pissed. It's just like as a fan of football who was looking forward to watching a good game, seeing all of this, and like the blatant bias it was not fun to watch. The thing was that it was not just MacArthur who escaped, in my opinion, in my books. Conor Gallagher was lucky to actually escape without any reprimanding for like what he did in the second goal with Sambi falling off. He was literally tugging at his shirt. Not that I'm not trying to justify what Sambi did. Sambi should have done better. But when you're doing that in the build-up and it's actually like leading to a goal, then things become so much different, right? Not I have never believed that, like, the refereeing decision should be the reasons that a team gives for its bad performance or lack of ability or quality. But yesterday I felt that like the refereeing decisions did play a part more than what I would like to admit it did. Like us being down to 10 men and them being down to 10 men makes a huge difference. Imagine the same situation where we were down to 10 men and it was like 1-1 or something. The game would have ended very differently for all you know. We would have been like, it could have ended 3-1 or 4-1 even. The fact that that we did not have a player advantage when we should have, and we saw most of the decisions going against us in a game where the players were not really turning up, compounded everything. It just like compounded everything. That's the thing. Like if this happens in a game like the Tottenham game where we were 3-0 up within the first 30 minutes, then we wouldn't have really felt a lot of the impact because we were 3-0 up. And anything that happens at that point is not going to really affect the output of the game unless like we manage to collapse this disastrously. But in these games of finer margins, when you're like already your team is not turning up, these decisions affect a lot. I wouldn't call it a 50-50 on the manager, on the team, and 50 on the ref. But the ref usually, like this time, had more of a part to play. The decisions had more of a part to play than I would like to normally admit.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. Like,
but that is no excuse for the team.
I am not giving an excuse for the team not showing up. But again, like the referee is not part of the game in the sense that he shouldn't be there. He's there to officiate, not to play a part in how the results turn out, and that is not happening. And I don't know what the fuck VAR was doing the whole time.
It made no sense.
It made absolutely no sense. But again, Bob, about the impact of Lacazette, right? Like when he came on, he not just about the playing style and how he scored the goal and everything. He at one moment he went to the crowd and did this, like, come on, raise up your voice.
He riled up, yeah.
He literally riled up the crowd, and that played a very important role. And that is kind of making me question the whole decision. And you were mentioning that we will be selling him in January, right? Not about Lacazette. Like, are we selling? No, that's not the question that I'm having. Are we having someone who could do that in the team?
No.
Rile up the crowd?
Rile up the crowd, right? Like, someone who could lift the stadium, lift the team.
Do you think we have a marquee signing? Sorry to cut you off, Bob. Do you think we have a marquee signing in the team?
No. Aubameyang is our marquee signing.
Yeah, I think a marquee signing would be the one doing it. I don't think we have one. I know we can talk all about like players who have been here for a long time, the players who come from Haaland being able to do that. But like the players who've been here for a long time are Xhaka, Aubameyang, and all these guys. Aubameyang never does that, and I don't think if Xhaka tries to do it, the crowd is going to take to it too kindly. So yeah, I do not know if we do have anyone. I'm sorry, Bob. You can go. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say Tierney in some extent would be able to do some of those things, but I think it's more than what he did to get the crowd back onto us. I felt that I mean, I read a ridiculous stat somewhere that when the time when Oba was playing, he created about 7 chances or something, or he didn't really create, but he had like 7 shots as compared to 23 when Lacazette came on. Such is the impact. And we all I mean, when we saw the Brighton game, we all saw that, when Lacazette came, he made it
changed,
more
yeah.
lively. He had a similar impact. And I'm starting to feel probably until we settle on the formations and all those sort of things, I would want to see Lacazette as well getting involved with Oba. You can't really take Oba out until his form really dips to a point where you can't start him anymore. But maybe the times when these two were at their peak playing together, those handshake days and all those sort of things, if I could recollect. So maybe accommodate both of them to have some sort of attacking duo, and then possibly cut one from the midfield to make room for both of them. Because the impact which, like I said, had, we all saw, it was really very lovely. And as I said earlier before, if not for the shot, the power of the Tierney shot, which lashed down to the top upright bar, like I said, could have easily converted that. It was straight on to him. It just bounced too hard on him. So if not for that, we could have even got a goal earlier than the injury time that he scored. So like I said, definitely is having an impact, and what more than, if we could play him. There's been absolutely no talks on his contract so far. Nothing has been happening, both from the players' end as well as from the club's end. So I don't think we are going to be extending him, considering that he's crossed 30 and then he's not going to be having much of a value and all those sort of things. So I expect him to be sold at this point in time. But having done that, at least if he could offer something what more than the current team is doing at the moment, and then makes more sense to actually play him more regularly, at least get his value improved as well as get our results improved.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of discussion we had, and it turned into a lot of downer than what I was expecting, especially.
It was a terrible performance, Vijay. What were you expecting?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get why this whole, downer of a situation is. So I think let's stop the discussion about the Crystal Palace game here, unless you guys want to talk about something that I have missed in whatever I have on my notebook. But if not, I guess thanks guys, thanks for joining in. It's been a nice nice part as always, and hopefully we'll see for the Aston Villa preview. Bye.
Awesome. Bye bye.